I couldn't use it today. I'll have to find out what's going on there. So apologies for that. No sound. Can you hear me now, guys? That was probably because... Oh, maybe you can't hear me. Ah, okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Righto. Now, actually, I might have found the clock. That's weird. Anyways, let's get underway, shall we? Thank you for joining us for Trading Buddies on this Thursday for the first time. Thank you so much for entrusting an hour or so of your precious time with Ash and myself. Ash will be joining me very shortly. He's getting the late mail on all things, FTSE and others, I should imagine. We'll find out when he comes in. I don't know why I'm looking at the NASDAQ because it's not on my watch list. One that is, however, is gold, and I'll update that before we get into the trade on gold for the day, if indeed we're going to take it. But it looks as though we will. Nice little range that we're in here at the moment. Daily pivot untested is a little bit of an issue, but we'll sort that out in just a tick. If you are in the gold trade that I have now been in for, I think it's 3 weeks, was taken on the weekly chart, I think 3 weeks ago. Trading that bar right there. 1, 2, yes, 3 weeks we've been in that trade. Nothing to do, except I have closed up my stop loss just a bit. Haven't taken any profit on this yet, but I've closed my stop loss. You can see where the entry was. I closed my stop loss up to almost zero risk, but the reason I wanted it where it is so that it's clear of the weekly pivot and the low here, which is indeed was the entry. So if you want the level of that and you want to follow it, we are at 1947. 1947 is the current stop loss on gold. Silver, which we took, I think, on a 4-hour chart from memory, but also nearly 3 weeks ago. Can't find it. Anyway, I have closed my stop loss up well into profit. We have taken profit on this first section of the trade. The stop loss has come down pretty much to where we took our first profit. And we have gone through the trade line, which is most important. And a retest of that trade line won't hurt us. That's why I'm okay with this. And stop loss is 3 days back, nearly 4 days back, in fact, above those 4 candles. Here's the target for silver. I'm not going beyond that. For silver, it's 22.10 is the target. And the reason I'm not going beyond that is because of the support and resistance area that's presented at 22.10 for almost ever. So expecting a bounce there. I may hold a little bit, but I'm more confident that gold will go longer or further than I am that silver will go further. And I think gold, potentially is down here somewhere in the 1817s. And if we get a real good ride on it, down to 1700, and if we get a real good ride on it, down to nearly 16. So that's what I'm thinking on gold. So I'm giving this as much space as I possibly can without being ridiculous. And we're at zero risk on that, waiting for our first take profit area, which is, I repeat, at 1904. That's where I'll take my first profit. But stop loss just above entry now on the trail. Righto, so today with gold, are we going to trade it as a breakout is the question. And those of you who haven't been here before, this is what we do each and every day. We look for a breakout of Asia session. Asia session begins on the second 1-hour candle of the day. So we look for the low of that session. And currently, in fact, now that session is over and done with. The low is the low of this bar. And we look for the high of the range, which is the high of this bar here. So very, very tight range today, which is good. as long as we're nowhere near it at the moment, and we're not. We're a little bit away from it. So the high is at 19, 19, 17, and the low of the range is at 19, 15, say 29, so about $4. We're playing with $4, and we've got one available to us until we hit the daily pivot. I suspect that the pullback will go to here and not to the daily pivot, because I think if this current range breaks, although I respect the daily pivot very, very much, as most of you would know, I think the breakout area is probably the target. So I'm going to go between the daily pivot and DR1 for our take profit on the long. For the short, it's a little bit more risk. Well, is it? You see that low there? I'll put a line on it. Come across. That's okay. It's actually not a bad target. So we'll use DS1. All right, I'm convinced we can take that trade today. So we will. Back to the hourly chart. So again, guys who haven't been here before, what we are trying to do is get the impulsive move, if you like, or breakout out of Asia session into London session, which has just begun. So we're going to place a long order above this bar here at 1919. The level's 19, 15. We'll go with 19, 20, just so we get it out of the way of the high of that bar. 19, 20. Now we're trading this at 0.25% currently because it has been doing quite well. 19.20. I think that's what I said. Yep. The stop loss will be the low of the range, which is 19.15.36. We'll go 19.15.30. 19.15.30. And the take profit, I'll work that out in just a tick, but I'll put this in just in case it triggers. Okay, so there's the stop loss. Entries just above here. Yes, it's risky at the daily pivot, no question. But like I said before, I think the pullback, if it does pull back, goes to here, not to here. So we'll see. Righto, it looks like that might trigger very, very shortly. So I better work out a take profit. And I said it's going to be between DR1 and the daily pivot. That looks like an ideal place right there. 1922.77. So we'll turn that into 1922.75. That'll be our target. So it looks like that's triggered now. Nice. I don't need to place the short. 1922. What did I say? 75. That's going to be the target. I'll just take that manually if need be. Actually, I better set it because we might be doing something else. Modify. 1922.75. Take profit. Where's that? There. 1922.75. Okay, so we've now got our target. Nothing else to do. Right, guys, so let's move on. And I've already updated the gold and silver trades, which both are going quite well, and we're completely risk-free pretty much on, well, we can only win on silver, and gold is pretty much risk-free as well. So what am I looking at today? Two things, really. One is CAD yen. And no, we haven't missed the boat. I'm looking to trade CAD yen short, not long. And there is a reason for that. And there it is. Those of you who know the slingshot will recognize, I'll just adjust that to where it's correct, we'll recognise a break of this trade line, not only the trade line, but the monthly pivot here, which of course has moved 10 days ago. After we've got the breakout, we've got consolidation, 2 bars. In fact, we've got 3 bars above that trade line. Then we've got to break back below it, and then we've got a retest of it. I did place an order short underneath that bar a couple of days ago. That, of course, has not triggered yet. It's still valid, in my humble opinion, because we haven't taken out this high. So, in other words, we haven't got a new high to back up the higher low. And if we don't, then that's going to look remarkably like one of these things. Disappearing pen, that's what I want. It's going to look like a left shoulder, a head, maybe right shoulder forming. So if that's the case, I wouldn't mind picking this up better than that level there, which was my first entry. So that's still perfectly valid until this high is taken out. So still looking for shorts there. That may come as early as today, not necessarily, well, won't be on a 4-hour chart, of course. Won't be on a daily chart, of course, today, but it could well be on a 4-hour chart today. That trade line there represents our best option. And once again, if I use my pen, actually I use a permanent pen rather than a vanishing one. Vanishing ones are good, but sometimes you need the permanent. So I'm looking for exactly the same as this over here. So price has broken through, it's consolidated, it's broken through the monthly pivot again, and I'm looking for it to come back underneath. This would be a quadruple header almost. Back underneath the monthly pivot, back underneath the daily pivot, back underneath the weekly pivot, and back underneath the trade line. Does it get any better than that? Probably not. You've got the whole kit and caboodle all in one go, all in one shooting match. So if that were to happen, then I would place an order. You could be aggressive and place an order short there, stop loss here, or you stop loss up here if you want to go really conservative, or you could place your order here, depending on where these candles are, with your stop loss here, I would suggest. The only issue is going to be that line there. I just lost my mouse pad. So when that support line comes into play, as it almost certainly will if you get that set up, you would much prefer, therefore, to get your entry underneath whatever bar that is and wherever that finishes, hopefully below the trade line, rather than here, so you're not trading into that trade line without profit in the bank. So that would be the ideal circumstance. Obviously, I'm not going to be here to call that, but if you want to take a mental image of it, that's exactly how I see trading this. Of course, it may not happen at all, and price could go to heaven on horseback, but that's exactly how I see the trading opportunity if it does arise. And that's how I saw the day panning out on CAD yen. We shall see. CAD, however, looks a little bit stronger, and that would be okay for this particular scenario, which I also like. It's pound CAD, and this time I'm looking to trade pound CAD short instead of CAD yen short. So could well be a little bit of a hedge there if everything works the way I've anticipated that it might, and I'm okay with that. They are separate trades, but should pan out pretty much the same if we've got a strong or weak Canadian dollar. With the pound versus the CAD, what I like about this one is we do have, and I'll have to go to the bigger picture to show you, we've got on the monthly chart a big rejection of this level here, whatever that level is here. Take your pick. Right, price has been over it forever. Up and under, up and under, up and under, up and up. It's just a cloud of a price that's not respected. Well, it is respected. It's not liked by pound CAD, that's for sure. So big rejection there last month, and we are fighting to get back through that level right now, there is a confluence there, in my opinion anyway, with this channel that I've drawn on the chart, and certainly with the most recent high here, prior to these, of course. Bearish engulfing bar off that level, off this high as well. So potential reversal coming up here. And that level there is currently where we are. So back to the daily chart, and we're putting a tweezer top there on the daily chart. So I do like that from a directional perspective. The confluence comes with this, and I can't call it anything but the top of the channel. And it's not only the top of this bigger picture channel, it's also the top of the inner channel. I'll change the color on that so that you can see the difference. Let's make that red and solid. There we go. So it's now just formed, that channel. For a channel to form, I need to have two equal lows, two equal highs. And when I say equal, I don't mean in value. And yes, I'll have a look at that in a sec. No problem. Since the 7th of August. That sounds good. That's 3 days ago. Nice. Have a look at that. Just a tick till I explain this. Now, I like tweezer tops in the right place. They often occur in the wrong place. And when they do, I ignore them completely. But this is in the right place. Why? Because it's at the top of a rally. It's got resistance, and we've come off a high, and we're looking for a lower high. So I do like the directional bias here. Obvious first profit targets are the pivots. I just need an entry. I don't trade the tweezer top as an entry. So what I'm looking for is an entry maybe on a 4-hour chart, maybe on a smaller time frame. But I need to see off this double top a higher low. Test of the daily pivot today would be absolutely ideal and would constitute a false break of that level that I've got on my chart. So I'm looking for that in the first instance. If price were to go back to here, to this trade line, and not take out these highs, I'd be looking for exactly the same as I'm looking for on CAD versus the yen. That is a false break. So like both of those for potential trades later in the day. They're not here yet, or they're not there yet, but those are my ideas going forward for the rest of the day and probably into tomorrow if we have to rely on the daily charts. Hi, Anne. How you doing? Let's have a look at EuroCAD. Why not? By the way, CAD Swiss, I also like for a buy, but not right now. And I'll explain, and Ash is onto this as well. There is a higher low in place here, and that was 2 days ago. And I took all of my willpower or won't power not to take that position. Why didn't I? Well, there's two reasons. One is I had a high test bar prior to a low test bar. That constitutes what I call the prickly pear. And if you've ever touched a prickly pear, you will know that it hurts. And that's why I call it the prickly pear, because it does hurt more often than it doesn't. In other words, if you take a directional bias off either one of those, chances are you're going to get a sting. And that's why I don't trade them. However, the setup looks really good. Double bottom. In fact, there's a massive base here that we're working off. And every single chart will give you the same thing. But the daily is giving you that potential higher low. So it is very, very tempting. But I don't trade that combination. So I'm waiting on a legitimate entry, if you like, or something that actually doesn't sting, or hopefully doesn't sting. No problem, man. That's all good. We can go through that with you. You don't need to talk, but it's always great if you do. If you want to come on camera, that's fine. But let's look at EuroCAD. EuroCAD's one of my faves. And the reason why EuroCAD's one of my faves, actually I'll bring up a new chart of it, is because I made quite a decent trade some time ago. I haven't been back in it since. But it was on the monthly chart. And I'll point that out to you, actually. We got into this here as the usual. Here, first time. And we got into it again there. double top, triple top, if you like, lower high, got in there, took some profit, got in there again, took some profit, and just kept giving and giving and giving and giving. I think I got about 2/3 of the distance. I didn't get it all the way down, but I do like it for that reason. It does wonderful things once it starts. So that being the monthly, well, actually, we'll stay there and we'll analyse this because we've still got that scenario, which is at this point in time governing things. But is it really, is it the big boss? And that's what I like to look at. What is the big boss here? Is it the double bottom, the triple bottom, quadruple bottom? Is it the double top? Is it the double top, triple top here? And when I can't answer that question, I have to go, range. But I like ranges because I can trade off them. And let's investigate that, whether we've traded off the top of a range or not. So Anne has been in since 146.953. Let's have a look. 146.953, about there. Okay, so you traded that bar, I suspect. Yes. Okay, prickly pear. Low test bar, high test bar. Well, yep, cool. There's not much you can do now, I'm afraid, given that you're almost, 3/4 of the way to your stop loss. It would be so easy for me to say that I couldn't take that trade now, but that's not going to do you any good, of course. What I can say is, when I said before that when I see a range, I think that's wonderful because I can trade off the top and bottom of that range. What I don't see here is either parameter or either edge of that range. So let me put that in for you, where I would consider the range to be. And what I do for that is pick 2 equal highs and 2 equal lows. And like I said before, they don't have to be equal in value. They just have to be equal in visual reasoning, if you like. So let's draw a few on here. That would be the first one I see in this area. Is it valid anymore? No, because it's been broken. Do I see anything else there that would attract my attention in terms of a range or a market structure? Well, I do a little bit, but I don't think it's valid either. Let's see. It actually is. So that's the closest thing I can get to a range for you. And like I said, when the market's ranging, as this has been for quite some time, biggest area would be these 2 highs up here, joining 2 lows down there. And both of these ranges, if you like, are telling me that short is not where I want to go. Why? Because we've bounced off the bottom of here. We put in a higher low, and we've bounced off the bottom of here. So this range here, and we haven't done that. You haven't put in a higher low yet. So that's in your favor, because the higher low has to appear as a pullback. So if you can hang on here, and I assume you've got your stop above this tweezer top, if you can hang on here, I think price can fall and maybe even come back and retest the monthly pivot, which would then give you the higher low that I would seek, but I'm looking to trade up to here. And hopefully you can see why. And my reasoning is, this is a terrible range, to be fair. I could tighten it up to there. Not even great, but I think you're getting the idea. I've got a top to a rectangle, and I've got a top to a rising channel. When I'm at the top of the rising channel in the rectangle, the only direction I'm looking to trade is short. But I have to have a lower high in place before I do that. So the only time I could probably trade this would have been there, and I'm too close to the bottom to trade it. So I wouldn't have got to trade it off the daily chart. But the same applies coming off the bottom. When I rally, I need to see a pullback before I go and try and get to the top of the range. So my analysis right now for this would be, you have a chance of that coming down to either the weekly pivot or the monthly pivot, hopefully before your stop loss is taken out. But my directional bias is long, not short. That's probably not what you want to hear, but that's exactly how I would play that. Is there a strategy you followed for that, Anne? Or is that just a freestyle trade based on the candles? And I get it, totally get the candles, they're nice. But the context for me is not relevant for trading short, only short term. Short term, I get it, 100%. Down to here to the weekly pivot, down to the monthly pivot. Okay. Yeah, fundamentals that the CAD is stronger than the euro. You know, I have a lot of trouble with the CAD. I've been waiting to trade CAD Swiss long for the longest time. I've already done it a few times and got, I think, one break-even trade, 2 losses. But I'm still waiting because I agree with you that the CAD does have stronger fundamentals than the euro. Yet, here we are. Sometimes that doesn't play out for a week, month, 2 months, 3 months, and suddenly exactly what you considered to be the case is the case, and away we go. So I hope that helps. But as I say, probably not what you wanted to hear. If your stop loss is there, I still think you've got a chance to get it down here, and I hope that's the case for you. Where's my mate Ash? I can't see him in the room. That's because he's not in the room. Okay. Couple of other things that I am looking at. Well, actually, let's have a look at where's gold. What's it doing? Daily pivot hasn't moved. Wouldn't it be ironic if it bounced off the daily pivot and took the stop loss? Because that's my thing, right? Yeah, I think the CAD and takes, and of course the US dollar is a beast of its own. The CAD does take a little bit of figuring out. I often used to use oil as a guide, or to guide me as to when the CAD would be strong or weak, and that worked for quite some time. Yet lately seems to be a disconnect. So I actually, if Ash was here, and I'm sure it will be, he could probably give you a good fundamental reason for that, but I can't. I'm not a person who follows fundamentals. But from what I see, the CAD economy is in pretty good shape, and I don't see any reason why it should be weak at all. Yet if you look at it versus the Swissy, I can't believe it. Really can't believe it, how weak it has been over such a long period of time. I know the Swissy's been strong against most currencies, but look where it is. You know, it's languishing way down here at all-time low. And I know a lot of the currencies are languishing at all-time lows against the Swissy. But I think, sorry, that's pound Swiss. Actually, while I'm there, I might as well repeat what I said on Monday. I think this is a classic opportunity, because here is the bullish engulfing bar that occurred on the 1st of October last year. Every single bit of price action has been inside that bar. Every single one. Hasn't even peeped out the top, hasn't even peeped out the bottom. So every bit of price action has been inside that for, nearly 10 months. Maybe it has a birthday party, I don't know, in 2 months' time. Oh, sorry, October. Yeah, just September, October is 2 months' time. So I see this as a massive opportunity to trade long. What I don't see is a way to do that right now. So I'm really keen to find a way in here. You know, it's got a classic double bottom, yet we didn't get a higher low. In fact, if you'd taken anything in here, you would have got wiped out. And yet we're still inside this range. Classic gathering of energy, if you like. Some people refer to it as the coiling of a spring. Valid. I get it. I get the analogy. And I agree with the thesis. And I think at some stage this will just explode out of here. Hope I'm on board when that happens. But CAD Swiss, very, very similar boat, and shows you how long the Swiss has been outpacing the Canadian dollar, and it continues to put in lower lows. I'm thinking that that probably is a money grab, but there you go. How can you deny that it keeps putting in lower lows? And therefore, you'd have to say we're in a bear market on CAD versus the Swissy. Yes, we've got a clear double bottom sitting here, I'm looking for, again, a higher low. So monthly pivot test, pull back, give me the higher low, way I go on the weekly chart. But the daily, as I said earlier, really did set up there from Tuesday's bar. And it took all of my won't power, as I said, not to trade that. But I do have a rule not to trade that high test, low test combination. So that's what kept me out. Righto, what else is going on? Spoken about gold and silver. We'll have a look at oil. Now, oil, and this goes to exactly my point before about trading the structures, right? So we've got a clear rectangle in here. So the market's been ranging forever. And we got that beautiful double bottom and looking for higher lows in here. But it went into another range, an internal range. But the only way when I see that, and when I see that I want to trade directionally is away from this area. Took an age and an age and an age and an age to actually find the trade, but it came not as a higher low. But I think I did trade this earlier. Looks like I traded that there as a higher low. Got a little bit out of it, but not much. And then we got this beautiful break and retest of the trade line, and that was our entry. I don't know if you know anything about the slingshot, but that's one of my candle patterns right there, sitting right there, that 3-candle formation. And we got into it here. We took our first profit here, and lo and behold, I did the wrong thing. I trailed my stop loss once I'd hit TP1, trailed my stop loss to entry, and look what happened. The retracement came back, took me out by a few pips, and I missed all of that movement. Not happy at all. But it is what it is. And is there a lesson to learn? There's always a lesson to learn. Well, actually, there's not always a lesson to learn. Sometimes you do exactly the right thing and something just buggers you up. But on this occasion, I did the wrong thing. Why? Why did I do the wrong thing? Can anybody tell me why I did the wrong thing? I'll save you from pondering that. When you're trading a breakout and retest, the one thing that you don't expect is a second retest of that level until you've hit a resistance area. However, the break and retest was of this trade line, not of the range. So if I put that second range in, you'll see what I mean. So 2 equal highs, 2 equal lows, that's my definition of a range forming. So there it is. So the range break wasn't retested. G'day, Lewis, how are you, mate? The range break wasn't retested. So dumb old me put my stop loss here before the range, the breakout, actually was retested. Had I even considered that, and I didn't, I would have kept my stop loss below these highs until that happened. Then happy days. So, and I know that, I'm just stupid for not doing it. So what I would suggest, if there's a lesson to learn from my mistake, that is it. Cost me a fair bit of dough. All of that, in fact. Yeah, I made a little bit, but could have made it a shit ton load or whatever that is. Let's look at the dollar index, because this is so important for the gold and silver trades. You can see the dollar index pulling back now. And my analysis on the dollar index is that I've got really a blockage here without direction. The direction that I had initially was, and again, going to the range scenario, which is where I live, right? So don't be surprised if you see me do this a lot. 2 equal highs, 2 equal lows. So there's your range. And when we got to here, my anticipation was that we would spend a lot of time in this range without something World War III or whatever telling us that the US dollar will outperform or underperform, whatever. So when it got to here, I was looking to trade it long off a higher low. So double bottom, higher low. Couldn't trade it because of where the pivots were, and that's a good thing because I would have got hammered. So it didn't make the top of this range. Yet it broke the bottom of the range, which one would anticipate if it doesn't go to the top. Where's it going? Broke through and gave us a retest, exactly what we traded on oil, right? So my anticipation then is that we're going to fill a big hole underneath this pair down to this level here at 101. Then that didn't happen. I didn't trade that. Actually, I may have placed an order on it, because if you look at that weekly chart, break and retest exactly the same trade, right? There's oil, entry there, stop loss there. Never threatened, of course, as prices continued to rally. So my analysis changed again when I saw this happen. When we come back into the range, again, what are we looking for? Higher low, correct. We got one here early, which was not tradable in my book because of this trade line. So it was too tight. So I didn't take that. Dumb me. But not dumb me. It's my rules. So I'm not kicking myself for that. That's no problem. And I haven't had an opportunity since. But what has happened? Price has come back above this trade line and now retested it. And when I said I'm now in a quandary as to the next direction of this, that's exactly where I am, because we're at a resistance level and we've retested support. So what do? This is I call it the pointy end of the toothpaste tube. So this is going to burst out of here at some stage. But I now am very, very confused about that direction, whether it's going to come back here and test the monthly pivot, or it's going to break out here and fill this range that I saw before. So I'm really indecisive on that, which is problematic because I've got gold and silver short, as I said. Nobody believes the Saudis' target of $90 per barrel too much. Yeah, Daryl. Look, oil is just a beast, isn't it? Again, one of those things. One thing I can tell you, don't doubt for 1 minute that a chart will fill a space. Don't doubt it for 1 minute. And, the big old argument, fundamentals versus technicals, and which do you prefer, which do you trade? Is there a combination of both? And I'll leave that to you to decide. That's a very personal thing, how you use technicals and or fundamentals in your trading. But one thing I can tell you, don't for 1 second think that a chart will not fill its space. Let me give you some examples of that. When in 2007, the euro versus the dollar was around about 1.6, so $1.60 US. Everyone was saying, oh, this is going to $2, going $2. Poppycock. Why would it do that? It's never been up here before. What it is going to do, like all currencies do, is going to come back to fair value. That's what it's going to do. So when you're up here and you think that, 95, 0.95 isn't achievable, why isn't it? Got down to here, don't forget, about 85 or less at the turn of the century. And then it just went like a skyrocket. Did the opposite of what most charts do, right? Up by the staircase, down by the elevator. It's done exactly the opposite. But it's taken a long time since the global financial crisis. It topped out and it's been going down, 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 down ever since. So, don't think for 1 second it can't happen. Give you one more example of that for different reasons. Where's this one? There. Euro versus the Swissy. Now, this is a famous one. Actually, I'll have to bring up a chart of that. In January of 2015, the Swiss National Bank, the Swissy was pegged to the euro, right? And in other words, value was determined by the euro. So what the Swiss National Bank decided, without telling anybody, they decided, in their infinite wisdom, that they would remove that peg and float their currency. Here's what happened. This is a monthly chart. We were around about the 120 mark, somewhere around there. So $1.20. And that monthly chart went, was it 3,000 pips? Yeah, 3,500 pips in the month. However, in that day, if I can go back there quickly enough. Looks like I can't go there quickly. I'll have to turn the properties off. And the day that actually happened, the decoupling actually happened. Sorry, I'll just have to spend a bit of time going back here so I can show you. It's all what happened in the month, right? Well, here's what happened in the day. That's the daily chart of euro versus the Swissy on the 3rd or 15th, I think it was, of January 2015. It went from 1.2010 to 0.85 in one day. In fact, most of that happened within an hour. Lots of people went to the wall on that, and a few brokers went to the wall on that result. Because you can imagine, if you've got an order in here anywhere, you're just not going to get filled. It's going to slip you down here like crazy. And people just lost a heck of a lot of money. Look at what's happened since. Took a long time for this to recover. Yet, here we are, getting towards that again. So my point being, don't let anybody tell you that a fundamental situation will stop the market from going to high to low. It won't. It might for a short period of time, like that day. One day, that virtually that entire movement took one day. But then price went pretty much back to where it was before now. It's just continuing to fall away. So, yeah, my point being, when we're up here, don't think we can't go down there. And when we're here, don't think we can't go back up here. Of course we can. The charts don't lie. It's the one thing that doesn't lie is the charts. Fundamentals, on the other hand, can be very, very tricky. Catherine, to double check, for the oil trade, you would have kept the stop loss at the original level. Okay, let's go back to that. What I should have done, Catherine, was put my stop loss either A, at the original level, rather than moving it to here. And the original level was underneath that bar or there, right? So I gave it a little bit of breathing space. So yes, I should have kept it underneath there, or certainly underneath those highs, because that was the breakout area. The chart broke out there. And as always, I can't tell you when, but I can tell you it will happen. That level will be retested. And it'll be retested again and again and again, because the nature of currencies is that they revert to the mean. So no matter how low you go, back they come. No matter how high you go, back they come. And the one thing that's really interesting about currencies, actually. Yeah, cool, Catherine, cool. The one thing about currencies that I think is valuable to know is take the extreme high on a monthly chart, take the extreme low and divide by 2 and put your level in that area. And this chart gives you a perfect indication of that. Let me do that. And there's the high, there's the low. So 12,000, let's say 124,000. So we're looking for 62,000. 62,000 is right there. Right, I've got that line. There is the middle of, I can't go back any further, but that's the mean, if you like, of oil. Funny, we go above it, we come back through it, we retest it, we go below it, we re-break it, we come back, we retest it. Oh, here we are again. They all do the same. They all, the indices not so much, but currencies, they all do it every single time. It may take months, of course, it may take years, but ultimately, that's what happens. So, yeah, well, Catherine, I've never done this with oil before, but since we're here, I can't refute what I've just seen. And what I've just seen is every time we get away from the middle, we come back to it. Every time, every time, every time. And I've just gone back 10 years. If I went back further, I think you'd probably find the same occurs. I can't, because that's all the data I've got on this chart. Yes, absolutely. You can say what you like, but everything you need to know about charting is, and when I was a kid, actually, I remember this lesson. We were taught as little boys, some of us were little girls, not me. We were taught stand across the road, standing at the side of the road, and you go, what do you do, children? Walk across? No, you look right, you look left, and you look right again. And nothing could be truer of currency charts or any chart that you like to look at. Don't just look here. You got to look over here and see what's happened before. That's what charting is, right? It's historical data. And as you say, Catherine, empirical evidence would suggest that oil is also a reversion to the mean. Yeah, I love imagery. Imagery is great. Use it all the time. because that's how you remember things, right? The quick brown fox fell over the lazy, or something like that. All those sorts of things that you remember as children, they're actually valid later in life, which is somewhat of a revelation to many people. But the quick brown fox, that's him. And there was also one to remember the planets, as I recall. I can't remember what that is, but they dropped Pluto, but so it doesn't matter anymore, I suppose. How's our gold doing? Not so good. Looks like an imminent bounce off the daily pivot, doesn't it? That's why we don't trade through it. But this is a different scenario. We're testing this to see if it works. If you want to get out of this now, I would suggest you do. If you are trading it, I would suggest you do and break even, because it doesn't look good. I'm keeping it on there because I need the data to tell me that it was wrong. Okay, but if you are trading this and getting uncomfortable, then I would get out of it. Righto, what else have we got? Any questions, guys, whilst I'm here? Let's look at the euro. Reason being that I love the euro, especially on a Thursday. And I'd like to go back and have a look at what's happened during the week. And it's having a good old day by the look of it. Ooh. That would have been a good one, Lewis. Hello, mate. How you going?
I can't hear you. Hold on a second.
I don't know. 1905. I've got 1904, Lewis.
That's what
I think. Let me have a look at my chart again. I think it's 1904 is my target. Well, my next target.
Hi, mate. Sorry.
How are you, buddy?
Do you know? I completely forgot. I don't know. I got lost on my days.
Oh, it's Thursday, mate.
I don't know why I thought it was Wednesday. I've been thinking it's Wednesday, and I just sort of looked at my phone, and there was a little reminder about trading, but I was like, "What? Trading buddies today?" So yeah, of course it's Thursday. I'm still in holiday mode, I'm afraid.
Mate, we've got plenty of trading buddies in here. We're having a good old time. We're having a good old conversation.
Oh, all right, good stuff. That's good to know.
So we're having fun. Yeah, 1904 I've got, Lewis. That's where I see it. And hopefully that will be the case. Tomorrow would be good, so I can get the money in the bank for the weekend. Anyway, where was I? Okay, spoke about euro Swissy. Oh, euro dollar. Sorry, mate, I'll just get rid of this and we'll have a chat to you.
No worries.
So euro dollar is off the radar today, and here's the reason why. Those of you who know how I work will know that once the daily pivot is tested on euro versus the dollar and gone to Billio, once I lose interest, in fact, I'd be willing to trade it back there, given the old reversion to the mean thing. But on this particular occasion, that's going to take some time to set up, because what I would need to see is something that tells me that this is going to reverse. And at the moment, I don't see that. So I'll be asleep before that happens, I would imagine. But there was another beautiful slingshot trade. Wow. The only problem, of course, was the weekly pivot. You had to trust that it was going to break it. But with a daily pivot break, a daily pivot test, wow, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's exactly the same candle pattern as I pointed out before, guys. So I won't be trading euro dollars today. I should not think. So, mate, what's going on in your world?
Well, I obviously the CPI data is the key kind of metric of the day. Not sure if something's just happened, but I've just seen a little bit of.
Well, the euro's just had a good 30 minutes. I don't know why.
As has the Swissy. Let me just check the euro versus the Swissy. Yeah, it looks like it's the Swissy, mate. It's the Swissy. The euro is. Good morning, Lewis. The euro is also down against the Swissy. I'll bring my chart up if you like. Oh,
yeah,
look at it.
do.
Okay, let's have a look.
We were just talking about euro Swissy and going back to 2015 and showing that all things are possible.
Yeah, well, absolutely, mate. I mean, it's this is the Euro Swissy. Maybe just a case of hitting a monthly pivot, but you can actually sort of look around the grounds. Look at the dollar Swiss. Big move to the downside on the dollar Swiss, Aussie Swiss. Big move to the downside. Well, you know, in comparison to some of these other bars, anyway. Move to the downside. CAD Swiss the same thing. Kiwi Swiss the same thing. Pound Swiss the same thing. So it's a Swissy story. No
Okay.
data has been released from Switzerland that I can see. Yeah, I mean, there's some ECB economic bulletin is out in 13 minutes, but I don't see why that would necessarily affect the euro rather than anything else, unless I haven't got the Swissy listed. Let me just double check, make sure I've got the Swissy listed here. Yeah, I do have it listed. I'm not sure what's going on there, mate. Let's just check the Swissy yen as well. Yeah, big move to the upside on the Swissy yen as well. So something is afoot, but I don't know what it is.
It keeps performing, this blasted thing, doesn't it?
It does, mate. And you know, I'm really keen on trading the Swissy short, and I like this. I like the CAD Swiss. Interestingly, on this though, you know, I've put this trend line down here, but actually, if we broaden this out a little bit, then we can probably see it's here. But you know, that looked like it had popped through this particular area. It's not the best trend line, I suppose. You know, it's a strange kind of channel that. But you know, I was looking at this against quite a few of these. You look at the Aussie Swiss on a longer term time frame as well, and you pointed out that probably does have a little bit further to go. I think if you were to use this as a measurement and then bring this down here, it's possible that we've just seen a few false breaks and we are at the level. You know, it's a really tricky one to call. Kiwi Swiss as well. Kiwi Swiss, I was starting to really like. You know, it was looking like we may well have started to form a bottom here. There's a higher high. Looked like a higher low. This is an opening day bar, so you can't really read too much from those ones because of the spread. Just starts to widen. But there might well be, I don't know, it looks like it's along here. It looks like we're sort of like, you know, going to float around these levels. But this is another one that looked like it may well have broken out. When I looked along this point here, looked like even if we tighten it up on the hourly is the only problem, you know, we're maybe looking on too short a time frame. But you look along that particular point there, and it looked like it had broken out, and it needs to hold that. 8 minutes left for this this particular price to get back up to this zone here. And if it does, that's going to start looking really positive. The fact that the Swissies actually reacted across the board would suggest that that there may well be just the last bit of fleshing out. That might be what it is. A last bit of fleshing out with the Swissy before it reverses course and starts moving to the upside. Because I was thinking about this yesterday and thinking, you know, the Swissy needs to form a bottoming pattern against a lot of these things. And and I was looking at the possibility that we might well start to see just an inverted head and shoulders kind of come into play when we may well be on the heads down here. But oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes you need to see almost like a bit of a bear trap before it starts to spring to the upside to really pick up some liquidity. So that might be what we're waiting for. Just one big push to the downside, then starting to reverse, and then I think everybody's going to get involved in it. But you know, whether it's kind of drift to the downside and then move to the upside, I'm not so sure. And I suppose the only thing we can do is have a look at historical data and see, you know, the historical price points of these and see what tends to happen at these bottoms. And if we look at this one, we're looking at the Kiwi Swiss right now, but I think they're all, I mean, look at that. That was the bar that kind of reversed the move to the upside after a prolonged move to the downside. Looking back again, well, this is a bit more of a, that's a bit more of a range. So you know, maybe it does happen, but even that bar there is relatively positive. But if you compare what's really been going on, there hasn't been anything. I suppose that bar's quite positive. So there might be there look to be some hints that this thing is possibly on the turn. or close to being on the turn.
But interesting, you just mentioned bear traps. It looks to me like there's been a few bull traps.
Sorry, bull trap. I did mean bull trap. Sorry, no, I did mean bear trap.
No, you meant bear traps.
Yeah, I did.
And I think that's true as well. But there's also been some beauties in bull traps.
Yeah, there's one there.
They've just wiped it out completely.
Yeah, break to the high. Maybe there's one here as well. Another one here. Another bull trap there. Break to the high. Another one there.
Another one. Yeah. Another one.
We haven't
Morning
had
Star.
one yet down here, but the Morning Star. Absolutely right. Yeah, another one there. But I'm just looking to see whether this could maybe, as I say, I'd really like to see whether this could create some sort of inverted head and shoulders. Now, I don't mind sort of trying to get into this a couple of times because I think that the run is if it's eventually transpires, it could be amazing. A run to the upside, and I guess it's just trying. I'd like to get in down here and see if it, there's a bit of a push higher, and then on this point, just take some profit, but leave something on the table just to see if it does come back, whether there is a long and prolonged, whether there's a prolonged run to the upside. Maybe sort of like coming up to this point here, creating a neckline, and then starting to come back again into this area, and then maybe going. But at this stage, it's not even kind of looking like it's creating the head. Not even sort of attempting to create the bottom. Not even really sort of coming up and knocking on the door of the weekly pivot. But the big question really is what's happened. What's happened in the last half an hour to suppress the price of everything else against the Swissy? Is it just that there's just so much risk out there? And if we consider risk, let's go down the indices because they're usually sort of one of the better bellwethers of risk. This is the FTSE 100. It hasn't really kind of collapsed too badly. The Nasdaq really is in a bit of a push to the upside. So the risk element doesn't seem to be the argument. So what's happened? What's happened sort of like all of a sudden with the Swiss market to pronounce the move in the Swiss franc, because it's the outperformer as we pass this first hour. And as I say, it could be purely because there's a bit of a bear trap forming, and some of those bigger funds are trying to pick up a bit of liquidity. But you'd think down here that they'd probably be maybe enough. I don't know, but
they've got enough by now. You would think.
Yeah. The only thing is, I suppose that the trades might become so tight. There's very few sellers left. With the trade becoming so tight, so very difficult to then buy if you've got nobody to take your position in the opposite direction.
If that's the case, let's have a look at the sentiment cycle and how that compares. But it doesn't look to the sentiment cycle to me.
Okay, let's have a look. So we'd want
gone too far.
Well, there's nothing really sort of with a Swissy that we can. And the Swissy never comes first.
And next question is: do you think the Kiwi versus the Swissy is the right one?
Well, do you know? I've got to be honest, mate. I quite like the Kiwi, the Swissy, the Kiwi, the Aussie, and the CAD. Against the Swissy, because they're growth stocks. They're growth currencies, and really they are the absolute opposite side of the coin in some regard. So obviously there's other dynamics. So the Kiwi, I think, is as good as any. The dollar is another possibility, I suppose. But I wouldn't be going near the euro, and I wouldn't be going near the pound. So out of the three, I think I prefer the CAD. But I think the Swissy and the Swissy, the Aussie, and the CAD are all relevant.
Actually, we were talking about the CAD, and I wanted to get your opinion of that. I can't remember who asked the question. Was it Ian? Maybe Ian. About the Canadian dollar, and I was saying that I've been waiting to trade CAD Swiss for the longest time.
Yeah,
and I want to buy it. Yet. And the economy in in Canada looks to be bubbling along quite fine. Oil's rallying. Commodities come off? Maybe they've come off. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
Well, let's have a look, mate, because I had a little study on this.
It continues to underperform for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, if let's mark out the dollar CAD. This is the dollar weakening, and that's the dollar strengthening. And I guess you could, you could pick any of these price points out for the weakness. Now, if we bring in WTI, look at the how it's the opposite. Obviously, dollar weakening was this point here. So CAD strength, WTI strength. This was the dollar strengthening. I mean, that went a little bit sideways for a while, but this is WTI weakening down here. Now, if we sort of like come back into the dollar CAD, look what happens to the dollar CAD at that point. So the CAD's weakening while oil is also weakening. So there is the correlation. Now you can see this space here. It was a little bit out of sync in many respects because the CAD's weakening during this particular period, while oil is going through a big run. Now this is a little bit more difficult because it's COVID related, but they do tend to run in tandem. And what we've seen in recent times is a rally here in oil. Bit of a question on how far that can go with the biggest consumer of oil showing some signs of strength in the face of the Chinese data. So this probably is going to come down to a supply situation and supply control rather than demand. There doesn't seem to be a whole bunch of demand for oil, certainly from China right now. So I don't really know what OPEC and the likes are doing to kind of manage to get oil to rally, but they're obviously sort of doing some kind of supply jiggery pokery to kind of make sure that certain bits and pieces come off the market. They
wouldn't do that, would they?
Well, I mean, you just
they're professionals at it.
They are, mate. But and like if we mark this point off here when oil started to rally and see what's happened really with the CAD, then
I felt there'd been a bit of a disconnect, frankly.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether I think in a little, it takes a little while for these things to filter through. No question. I suppose oil rallying. What would be really interesting to look at is does the CAD tend to rally when oil rallies for a specific reason? I.e., is it as simple as if oil is rallying because the demand is high, is that what pushes the Canadian dollar up? Because if the supply is weak and that's why oil is rallying, then maybe that doesn't affect the Canadian dollar quite as positively. So there might be sort of like part of the nuanced dynamic that needs to be looked at. But this this is the dollar CAD right now, and we're looking on a weekly chart, and this is on resistance. So
yeah, it's beautiful. That's a beautiful piece of resistance right there.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you got oil kind of rallying. There are potential cries for the Canadian dollar to start strengthening off the back of that, and this is on resistance. So there's a chance here that we do see the Canadian dollar start to rally, and oil is just becoming a little bit of a forerunner for us, just to give us an idea that there's the chance this could happen. Now this is the dollar CAD. So this is probably going to end up today being more of a dollar story if CPI data comes in. If it comes in under 3%, mate, I think the dollar is in a bit of trouble for a while, and we see the Canadian dollar strengthen. But I don't know whether the Canadian dollar will strengthen across the board, and I guess that's where we are. The Swissy is currently strengthening. Is that because it's picking up a few of the bears, so we can actually get a projected move to the upside, or is it something more sinister than that? They're actually sort of people are still concerned with the global economy, and the Swissy is the best place to be in that environment.
Yep.
Difficult to know over a course of an hour. If you look at the Swissy versus the dollar on a longer term time frame, this does look like it just needs to ease back into an area at least. That's the dollar Swiss. So it looks like the Swissy should start to see some weakness at very minimum. Same thing here. You'd think that there would be at least some sort of test of this area before, and I agree with you about the chance this could weaken, but you'd think that there would be at least an attempt to get back up here this month, at some point this month. This month we're talking about. That's the Aussie Swissy. Let's go down to the other two as well. So the CAD Swiss. same thing. You think, a test of the monthly pivot, or certainly this area here. Maybe we've seen it already, but you think that it would try and get back up to that point before, the next potential move before maybe pausing.
It was a very tempting setup on that on Tuesday or after Tuesday on the daily chart, with a potential higher low. But my rules prevented me from trading it. Thank goodness, because I don't think it looks so good now.
No, well, this is it. I mean, look at this one as well. Another great price point. This is the Kiwi. This is the Kiwi Swissy. Great price point. That bar, that bar preceded the big move that happened from 2020 right the way up to 2021. So a whole 12 months of pushing to the upside off the lowest point of that bar, and that's exactly where we are, which is why I think the Kiwi Swiss is really interesting. I mean, the price action looks atrocious, but you certainly wouldn't be wanting to sell it here. And really, we want to buy it here. It's just that we're not getting the follow through. But again, you'd think that there'd be at least an attempt to get up here.
Our day will come, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, we're right on the open of the week. The price point is right on the open of the week as we speak. So this is a price point to be defended by the Bears, but they weren't able. Sorry, by the Bulls, but they weren't able to continue to hold the Swissy, which is really a pig of a currency against everything else. They weren't able to hold it above this trend line here. So we're kind of back where we started in many respects.
Nice little candle pattern there. Big candle though, for a buy. I mean.
Oh, do you know what, mate? I think in context it's not that big. When we kind of look at the longer term,
what chart are you on?
This is the hourly.
Okay, so what's that? 30 pips.
This one here is 20 pips.
Nothing.
Yeah. No, nothing. And as I say, in context, if you sort of like bring that into the daily, basically you're buying at today's high, and there's probably some profit taken around about the weekly pivot. But as I say, who knows where this goes? If this can break this pattern, can break out of this point here, then there's some really there's some great points along here. We're talking about 20 going into 200. So there's a potentially 10 to 1. I mean, these are the kind of ones that do provide 10 to 1 when you pick it up at the low. If it's the low,
get it early enough,
yeah. If it's the low, that's the big question here.
And we've been asking. Well, I've been asking that question for some time. And like I said, fortunately, my rules kept me out of the CAD Swiss yesterday. Otherwise, I would be sweating right now. I would have thought.
Yeah.
But,
not as I say, strange, and a bit of digging is going to need to be done here because the Swissy is obviously showing some huge signs of strength yet again, and it's just a question of why. And we probably need to discover that before thinking about anything else. Because if it's a bear trap, then this makes it really attractive. The potential move here really attractive.
All good. I've got nothing more. I've kind of expired what I had to say today. Euro's off the radar. Still depending on gold and silver, so that will probably be affected, as you say, by news tonight or this afternoon for whomever. I've got CAD yen short and I've got pound CAD short. Not sure which one, and could be a hedge, I suppose, but pound CAD at the moment is looking particularly strong. That might be a trade a little bit later, guys. Pound CAD short, the one I pointed out before, and CAD yen also short, could also be. So keep your eye on both of those, but I don't have a setup yet. If they get back underneath those trade lines, then happy days. What's that chart, mate? Daily,
This is daily on the CAD yen. It's at resistance, isn't it?
Yeah, on the 4 hour, we've had a break above the trade line and the monthly pivot. So I want to see price come back underneath both of those.
Yeah.
There's another trade line coming through there from, up there somewhere. Yep. So if we sneak back underneath that, the daily pivot, the monthly pivot, and the weekly pivot, and retest any one or all three or four of those, I think that's an excellent opportunity to short that currency pair.
Yeah. And it's I mean the yen's another one, isn't it? It's just a really tricky one to tame.
Yeah, got me again this week.
Yeah,
quick of a thing.
Yeah, I from a longer term trader's perspective, I couldn't see why you would touch the yen as a short.
Yeah, I'll wake up one day. The good part is I hedged it and got out of trouble. I was euro yen short, but I saw and it was so clear to see. I just happened to be in front of the charts at the right time. I think it was actually on Monday. Might have been Tuesday, can't remember. And I could see what was happening. So I bunged a long on dollar yen, and you got most of my money back. So got out of it.
That's good, mate. I wonder whether we're kind of it's the markets are working quite heavily on hope that the central banks are ready to pause. There's certainly sort of enough data now to suggest that we had deflation in China, which was actually not disinflation; it's actually deflation coming out of China. So, Lewis, recession push for the Swissy strength, and that could be it, couldn't it? That could be it. And I suppose this is the thing, when you look at the Swissy, the difficulty is with the Swissy is that it is so overbought and has been for such a protracted and long period of time that it's just difficult to make the case to sell it. To buy the Swissy and sell other things against it. It's right across the board. It's overbought. It's right at the lower end of the range against so many of these things, and through no question through some significant support levels here. People I suppose are looking for another push, but you don't often see when you kind of come down sort of like from what happened on the left hand side, you don't often see one area of support broken, two areas of supports broken, 3 here, 4 here, 5 here. You don't often see that without some sort of reversion to the mean and moves back to the upside. However, we have seen and very recently lived through and still living through some pretty extraordinary events in very short periods of time. They all seem to happen at once. So I guess this could go as low as it wants.
Well, yes and no, because we spoke about that earlier when you were out of the room. It was very much a case of looking at the extreme highs and the extreme lows of a currency pair, and then drawing a line. I think we spoke about this the other day, drawing a line in the middle of that range.
Yeah.
And as sure as God made little green apples and bears shit in the woods, price will go there.
Yeah.
It will go there.
That's the high. I suppose that this is the current low. And I guess
look where all the price is. Look where it is. It's dead set in the middle.
Right, there's the 50%. Yep.
So it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. This one here, this high was in 2022, so it's actually a year. We're talking about a year, and it could be. Now we're in the middle of this year. Maybe we do start to see the rally back in the CAD Swiss again, but it might be as late as January.
Might be a Christmas present.
It could be. You just got to hold on to your hat, haven't you?
You do. I'm out of here.
Cool, mate. Nice one. Thanks so much for holding the fort. I apologise for forgetting.
We had fun. We had lots of people asking questions, which was fantastic. And thank you for that, guys. It really does help the show move along, and obviously, if we can answer to your satisfaction, fantastic. Sometimes it's not what you want to hear, and I know, and I'm fingers crossed for you that tweezer top does the job for you. Very little you can do now, of course, but with any good fortune at all, you'll be smiling tomorrow. Fantastic. And hopefully I'll be doing the same. Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mate.
Yeah, look, I agree, Lewis, but can we do it yet? I think we've got a range break, right? Which is perfect. As soon as we come back inside the range, I can short it. I know you're far better at that. You'll pick the top. You're far better than me at picking tops. I just need to see that come back inside the range. When it does, I'll jump on it too. I agree. I think it's due to come back. Yeah, as I said, thanks for being our trading buddies, guys. All of the people in the room today, I hope you got something out of it. And thanks for the contributions and the questions. We'll be back Monday doing it all again, and George will be joining us to show us exactly how to trade 5-minute charts. I don't want to know, but it's fascinating to look at at the end of the day. Have a great weekend, and Ash, thanks for being my buddy, mate.
No worries, mate. Thanks for, as I say, coming in and covering while I was having a forgetful moment.
All good. Wait till you get to my age, mate.
Looking forward to it. Oh, and remember.
I remind the elephants still. Have a good